Welcome into OutKick, the show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope all of you are having a fantastic Tuesday wherever you may be across the country or around the world. We've got a lot to dive into here today with everybody. But a reminder off the top, we do a Wednesday OutKick the show that airs on FS1 at 6 p.m. Eastern. That will be on tomorrow. I will remind you all, but if you happen to look up at your favorite bar or restaurant, you think, I know that guy. He used to be on FS1 all the time with Lock It In and Fox Bet Live. Boom, there you go. I was out last week for a dinner, and the waitress came around and she was like, I knew you were on television because people told me, but I never saw you on television before until I saw you on FS1. I was like, well, you should really be watching Fox News and Fox Sports a little bit more, but that's good that you now are aware that I am on FS1 every single Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern for a special OutKick show, and we, in fact, tape that right after this show, so it'll be reacting to all the things that are going on in the NFL and in college football. Also, off the top, I'd encourage all of you to go watch the full hour-long interview that is up now with Paul Finnebaum that has led to stories all over the country. In fact, even ESPN itself is covering the news. They sent out a news alert, and actually Todd Furman texted me, and he was like, hey, look, Clay, Feinbaum's running for the Senate. And I was like, yeah. Did you check to see who actually did the interview? And he was like, no, I didn't click the link. I just got the alert. Well, if he had clicked the link, he wouldn't have known who did the interview because ESPN didn't credit me. 70-year-old Finnebaum said during a recent interview with OutKick that he'd run as a Republican to fill the seat vacated by former Auburn football coach Tommy Tuberville. And then there's a full article about it. Does not mention that yours truly conducted the interview at all. So the Cold War with ESPN still in earnest, evidently, even though I'm trying to be a nice guy and help one of their top talents end up in the United States Senate. But I would encourage you in all seriousness to watch the full interview. It is posted up at the OutKick YouTube channel. And there will be more clips of the interview that continue to be shared in the days and weeks ahead. But look, the thing was everywhere. But I really do encourage you to go listen to the full long-form content itself because I do think it's helpful. I do think it's beneficial for everyone out there to take that opportunity and dive into it and be able to make your own opinions based on what was said. I said yesterday I think Paul Finnebaum is going to run for the Senate. And we played a cut yesterday explaining why I thought that was. Let me also now play a cut for all of you of Paul Finnebaum telling you that in 2019, when the great LSU against Alabama game was set to take place that Trump was going to be visiting, Finnebaum had an interview that was set up with Donald Trump in the White House. He was scheduled to go. He was excited about it. It was going to go well. It's a big moment to be able for anyone to interview the sitting president of the United States. It was all ready to roll. And then ESPN said, nope, you're not allowed to do that. And Paul told that story publicly for the first time. I think it's significant. I'll tell you why, but watch.
What do you think would happen if you told ESPN, hey, I'm going to have President Trump on my radio show?
I almost did that once.
What happened?
Do you remember the 2019 game? LSU and Alabama.
Oh yeah, when he came in, I was there. That was in the Burrow versus Tua, one of the great college football games of all time.
So here we go, saying things that. Our producer said we've got to do something big.
Yeah, because the game was so massive.
College Game Day was going to be there. Our show is not obviously College Game Day, so I reached out to a friend of mine in D.C. He said, "You want to get Trump?" I said, yeah.
But by the way, anyone who has ever hosted a show in the history of mankind that does not want the president, whether it's Democrat, Republican, whoever the hell it is either lying to you or a complete moron, to interject. So
he said, I was doing a Get Up and First Take in New York 2 days a week. I said, I'm going to be in New York on Wednesday. I'd have to come through. He said, I think we could do it at the White House Thursday morning. Can you get there? I said, yeah, I can get there. I'm in New York.
Right.
He said, let me run it down the flagpole. And he texted me back saying, it's looking good. I called my boss, and they killed it.
What's the reaction when you think you're going to get to interview the president and they say, nope, not happening?
I was devastated. They told me that we are not allowed to mix politics with sports.
What do you think they would have said if it were Barack Obama and you had the opportunity to interview him?
I think the answer is pretty evident that Andy Katz went to the White House
every year for the bracket.
So, it was a turning point for me. It wasn't about politics at all.
Yeah.
It was just about the idea of going to the White House to interview the President of the United States. And it wasn't about politics.
Yeah.
It was about
the game that he was going to attend.
Game, the biggest game of the year in college football. And I never exactly knew where the kill button came from, but it didn't happen.
Why is it significant? All I ask for and all I would say that a network like ESPN should do is treat the President of the United States the exact same, whether he's a Democrat, whether he's a Republican, whether he's an independent, whether he's of a party yet to be founded. Treat him the exact same. And as Paul Finnebaum said there, that's not what's going on. Every year they sent Andy Katz in to humanize Barack Obama by having him pick the NCAA tournament bracket winners. There was no complexity of politics discussed in any way, just the president as a sports fan. Here, Trump was going to the LSU-Bama game. Joe Burrow against Tua, huge, epic 2019 contest that probably most of you watching this right now watched. I was there in person. It was an awesome experience to be able to attend a game of that quality and magnitude. I thought it was awesome. The president was there. I would think it was awesome if the president were a Democrat and he were there, or if he were an independent. And Paul Finnebaum had the interview set up, and ESPN said no. Now, Finnebaum also said in this interview, ESPN banned you from being able to come on my program. I knew that. I'm the only person in America probably who is banned by CNN and by ESPN. But how do you ban me and let all the nincompoops on your network come on? Now, look, it hasn't really impacted me in any way. I'm fortunate to get to go on Fox News daily. This show does quite well, particularly the clips of this show. My career's going fine. But I do think it was content-based discrimination. ESPN decided I couldn't come on their airwaves because of the things that I said that were critical of the network's far left-wing bias. Here is Paul Finnebaum proving and demonstrating quite clearly that the standard for what ESPN was willing to do with Barack Obama was different than the standard for what they were willing to do with President Trump. And I think, unfortunately, the average American sports fan loses. Now, I don't think that ESPN should be doing an interview with any president about what the tax rates should be or anything having to do with anything other than the world of sports in general. But I do know this is circulating inside of the White House, and there are a lot of people that are not happy about the fact that ESPN has been censoring the President of the United States. I would bet, where do I think this is going? I bet they're going to end up with a President Trump interview soon. That's my prediction, but we will have to wait and see. Again, I would encourage all of you to go check out that full Finnebaum interview that is up on the OutKick YouTube channel right now. I think many of you will enjoy it quite a lot. Okay, let's talk about the situation going on right now in Major League Baseball playoffs, by the way, are underway. And as I'm speaking to all of you, the Tigers are trying to beat the Guardians. They will always be the Indians to me. They're runners on second and third, top of the ninth, 2 outs. We'll see what ends up happening there. And the Padres going up against the Cubs as I am speaking to all of you. But last night, awfulness. And by awfulness, I mean the NFL is tough to watch if the quarterback play is not good, and the Cincinnati Bengals are finding out about that in earnest. Their performance last night was, frankly, inexcusably awful, and this is a team that looks like they are finished. Had only 9 first downs, 159 total yards to 512 for the Broncos. The Bengals quit. The Bengals quit because Joe Burrow is out for the season. That 2-0 early season start has vanished in a hurry. Tyreek Hill, we hope he's going to be okay. The Dolphins finally got a win over the winless Jets. It was also an ugly game, ugly performance. The Jets actually outgained and in many ways outperformed the Dolphins, but for the 3 turnovers. I'll have my top 5, bottom 5 for you soon. It'll be on the OutKick show. They're already written down. But I wanted to play this because I've watched every snap, sadly, of the Tennessee Titans season so far. This is one of the worst teams I've ever seen. The game between the Texans and the Titans, yes, the Texans won. The Texans are an awful team too. And after the game, Cam Ward was asked about the team's performance. They're now 0-4, and he said they played like ass, and he played like ass too. That's not hyperbole. That's actually what he said. Watch.
Everything from interception to a penalty to an incompletion by me, a bad ball. And then once we pass the 50, we just not continuing the drive. So I mean, we keeping the buck right now. We ass. So we 0-4. We have at this point we got nothing to lose. We dropped a quarter of our games and we've yet to do anything. So we have to lock in. Especially myself on the offensive line, from the defensive line, from the special teams to all 3 faces. We have to play together. We have not played together this year yet. And that's just something that we want to preach about it every day. Every day we got to do better, and we're doing that. But it has to show up on Sundays. It hasn't showed up yet, but it got to show up next week.
Titans are the worst team in the NFL. I am a season ticket holder. My family has been season ticket holders since the stadium opened in 1999. I don't think the franchise has ever been in more dire straits than they are in right now. There's no hope. The roster is awful. The coaches are awful. I think you got to fire them all and go back to the drawing board. I don't know if Cam Ward's going to be a successful quarterback or not. Through the first 4 weeks, it does not appear that he's getting any better at all. But frankly, they can't block for him, and they can't catch it when he throws it. So I'm not sure this roster is able to be judged by anyone out there as good or ill based on, frankly, how awful the quarterback, how good or bad the quarterback is based on how awful the overall talent is. So I have got the Titans as the 32nd best team in the NFL. I'll go ahead and give you my bottom 5. I'll give you more logic behind this on the OutKick show, which is going to be airing on FS1. Saints, 31st. Jets, 30th. All those teams are 0-4. Texans won, but they're also awful at 29. Bengals, even though they're 2-2, the performance they put forward on Monday night, since Joe Burrow has been injured, they are finished and awful. Top 5, no surprise. Bills and the Eagles are the 2 best teams in the NFL. I think anybody arguing otherwise has lost their minds. That seems quite clear to me. Lions, 3rd best. Then I have the Rams and the Bucks rounding out my top 5. You can agree or disagree, and one way you could agree or disagree is by playing along with us on Prize Picks. We've won 3 out of the first 4 weeks on Prize Picks. You go to Prize Picks right now, use my code OutKick. When you play $5, you get $50. You can download the app. You can go to prizepicks.com. But when you put in OutKick, you get $50 when you play $5. We're going to give you a pick on Thursday. Hopefully that pick will join the 3 other winning picks that we have already given you and lead you to swimming like Scrooge McDuck in a vault full of gold coins. You can play in California. You can play in Georgia. You can play in Texas if you're feeling left out. 40-plus states. Very easy to play. All you do is pick more or less. And if you're a little bit confused, all you have to do is wait for our pick, and you can either roll with us and hopefully win like we have 3 of the last 4 weeks, or you can fade us and hopefully lose like you would have 3 of the first 4 weeks. If I'm wrong on everything, get hooked up right now. Prize Picks, code OutKick. That is Prize Picks, code OutKick. All right, I want to dive into a couple of other stories that are out there. J.K. Rowling's one of my favorite people on the planet. Never met her, probably will never meet her. A Harry Potter author, is brave. She is courageous. She also has quite the career, I think, as a writer. I have been very impressed with what she has been willing to say about the dishonesty in America surrounding gender-related issues. All she said was, I'm not willing to lie when people tell me that a man is a woman and that there is no difference in biology. And she's been attacked vociferously for this by many of the people who starred in the Harry Potter movies, including prominently Emma Watson, who played Hermione Granger in all 7 of the films. And so far, J.K. Rowling, by and large, had not been willing to address the Emma Watson furor over gender-related issues. But she wrote, and I want to read some of this because I want to make sure that we clip this, and I want to address this specifically to people who have the resources to avoid being canceled. I think that it is sometimes smart, courageous, even brave to bite your tongue if speaking out loud might cost your family significantly. Let me explain what I mean by that. If you're watching me right now and you have a job and your mortgage requires you as the dad or the mom or the grandma or grandpa, the head of a family that is making a good salary, that is helping to put food on the table, that is helping to pay the mortgage, that is helping to hopefully get the kids into college one day, or to pay the mortgage in a neighborhood where the schools are a little bit better because you're endeavoring to do whatever you can to help take care of your family. I think sometimes you should bite your tongue. Instead of posting on Facebook, instead of posting on Twitter, instead of going on Instagram. Unfortunately, we live in a cancel culture era, and I understand why so many of you might not share publicly exactly what you think about your politics. I really do, because sometimes discretion is the better side of valor. As we say on the program, SBAP. Sometimes be a pussy. Sometimes your family requires and your obligations require that you not say exactly what you think, because you can't afford to lose your job, because if you do, the mortgage doesn't get paid, the car doesn't get paid, the kids don't get fed. This is not who I'm addressing this to. This is all of you watching this right now who have money that you can't spend for the rest of your life. I'm fortunate to be in that camp. I haven't always been in that camp. Why are you such cowards? Why are you unwilling to actually say what you believe? Who cares if you get negative looks on your charity board? Who cares if in the pickup line at school, people are like, oh my goodness, did you see what so-and-so said? Have a spine. Speak for those who are not fortunate enough to have the financial resources that you do. You know the number one thing I get told? People come up to me. You say exactly what I wish I could say. You are speaking out for people like me. People who have mortgages, car payments, kid tuition. People who have real financial issues that their jobs require them to take care of. Heads of households. This isn't for all of you. I got your back. This is for all of you out there that have resources that you can't spend, that have the ability to speak out loudly but are afraid. J.K. Rowling's a billionaire. She's a billionaire with a deep connection to Hollywood. She could have very easily said, I'm just going to pretend this gender ideology issue isn't going on. She could have said, hey, that battle's not for me. I'm not going to fight this right now. I'm one of the greatest selling authors of all time. Why would I alienate anybody? She could have made that choice. She couldn't do it. She couldn't stomach people lying. She wasn't willing when everybody said, men who think they're women, they're actually women too. J.K. Rowling just couldn't bite her tongue. She said, no, they're not. This whole gender ideology business is nonsense. And she went on and she fought it aggressively. And she finally hit her breaking point on Emma Watson, who played Hermione Granger, when she said, I'm reading from her. I love all of this. We're going to put it up for you to be able to see. Years after they finished acting in Harry Potter, they continue to assume the role of de facto spokespeople for the world I created. This entire text that she posted, this entire Twitter thread, is one big pimp slap, one big bitch please to Emma Watson. Think about that sentence. Years after they finished acting in Potter, they continue to assume the role of de facto spokespeople for the world I created. Damn, that's good. When you've known people since they were 10 years old, it's hard to shake a certain protectiveness. Until quite recently, I hadn't managed to throw off the memory of children who needed to be gently coaxed through their dialogue in a big, scary film studio. For the past few years, I've repeatedly declined invitations from journalists to comment on Emma. But she finally did decide that she was going to comment, even though Emma asked someone to pass a handwritten note from her to me, which contained the single sentence, "I'm so sorry for what you're going through." She has my phone number. This was back when the death, rape, and torture threats against me were at their peak, at a time when my personal security measures had to be tightened considerably. I was constantly worried for my family's safety. Emma Watson had just publicly poured more petrol on the flames, yet thought a one-line expression of concern from her would reassure me of her fundamental sympathy and kindness. This is one of the most devastating paragraphs I've ever seen on Twitter. Like other people who've never experienced adult life uncushioned by wealth and fame, Emma has so little experience of real life, she's ignorant of how ignorant she is. She'll never need a homeless shelter. She's never going to be placed on a mixed-sex public hospital ward. I'd be astounded if she's been in a high street changing room since childhood. Her public bathroom is single occupancy and comes with a security man standing guard outside the door. Has she had to strip off in a newly mixed-sex changing room in a council-run swimming pool? Is she ever likely to need a state-run rape crisis center that refuses to guarantee an all-female service? To find herself sharing a prison cell with a male rapist who's identified into the women's prison. I wasn't a multimillionaire at 14. I lived in poverty while writing the book that made Emma famous. I therefore understand from my own life experience what the trashing of women's rights in which Emma has so enthusiastically participated means to women and girls without her privileges. Holy cow. I encourage you to go read all of this. Why do I call out people with wealth, people with the means? Because J.K. Rowling is speaking out about things that she knows are wrong, even at the risk of potentially her life. And if you say, what are you talking about? I mean, the same people who killed Charlie Kirk over transgender issues, among other things, would love to kill J.K. Rowling over transgender-related issues here. This is what bravery and courage actually looks like. It's speaking truth even though it might have personal consequences for you that could include even up to and including death. What are you afraid of? Why is the Harry Potter author so much braver than so many of you with resources that still aren't willing to speak out against what you know is wrong? It's a personal challenge from me to you. I was willing to do it, and I was willing to do it before I had money. I'm not asking people who don't have money to take the risks that I took in standing and saying exactly what I think. I'm asking all of you who have been fortunate, blessed by America, blessed by Australia, blessed by England, blessed by any country in the world that is currently succumbing to the woke virus. Why are you a coward? Why are you not willing to speak out? Once you have money that's going to sustain you through life, no one can cancel you. No one can cancel me. So it's comparatively easy for me to speak out now, but I always was unwilling to bite my tongue. Now, there's a lot of physical danger. I understand that. For most people, there is not going to be any physical danger. I look at this and I say, bravo to J.K. Rowling. Way more people should follow in her stead. And she's actually a true feminist, because a true feminist would recognize that being a woman is not a costume to put on, that being a woman is not defined by what you say you are, it's biology. And I give credit to my own wife on this, who is a huge fan of J.K. Rowling. And her point on this is, unless you were a teenage girl holding your car key as you walked through a parking lot, terrified that you might get raped, no boy ever has that experience. Until you've actually lived as a woman, pretending that you are a woman, and heck, even getting a Woman of the Year award in the first year that you're a woman is actually an insult to women everywhere. Men won't stand for this. There are no people out there that were women that became men that are more famous and more successful in life anywhere. Think about that. Men are just like, yeah, I mean, okay, if that makes you happier, but you're not going to be the man of the year being a chick pretending to be a dude. Think about that. Men have just said, no, we're not doing this. Women's empathy has been taken advantage of. You need spine. You need courage. You need bravery. More of you need to be willing to speak out like J.K. Rowling did. Okay, couple of other things that I think are out there before we have to go tape. Don Lemon. We got a Don Lemon clip here. Don Lemon is a moron, but I want to share this clip because I do think it's an important one. Don Lemon decides that he needs to address white men about why their rates of violence are so unacceptable. This is black gay man Don Lemon, married to a white man. Don Lemon addressing all white men with, why are you guys so violent? Watch.
Men who look like you, men who vote like you, and men who sound like you. White men, something is broken. Something is cracked deep inside when so many of you believe the answer to fear, to loss, to change is violence. Are you listening to me? I hope I'm saying it loud enough for the people in the back.
Why does Don Lemon think that white men need to hear from a gay black guy about how our rates of violence are unacceptable? First of all, as I have established for a long time, no one hates violence more than me. I am the most anti-violent person on the planet. I wish that no white, Asian, Hispanic, black men or women or anyone else out there of any racial group was ever a victim of violent crime. But if you were going to make a video addressed to a racial group saying your rates of violent crime are unacceptable, Don Lemon would actually have to talk to black men, because black men, despite representing only around 6% of the United States population, commit roughly half of all murders in America. Most of their victims are also black men. If black men had the rates of violent crime of white men, the rate of violent crime would decline in the black community by exorbitant rates, 75, 80, 90%. I wish no white men committed acts of violence. But if you're actually going to address communities based on their race and gender and talk about why are they so violent, the only group that Don Lemon could actually do that for, honestly, is black men. And I want you to think about this. What would happen in the rules of the Oppression Olympics and the racial hierarchy victimhood analysis if a white guy like me made a video directly addressing black men and asking why are they so violent and lecturing them? I think it would probably not be very well received. But it would actually be far more honest than what Don Lemon just did. So this is a question for Don Lemon. Why would you not make the similar video and address black men and their much higher rates of violence and lecture them too? You know, if the goal is to limit violence, then we have to go to where violence is most often perpetrated. And it's most often perpetrated by black people in inner city neighborhoods. That's what the data reflects. I could make a video and I could lecture Asian men and I could wag my finger at them and I could demand that they lower rates of violence. And if I were president of the United States, I could flood resources into Asian communities and we could fight Asian violence committed and perpetrated by Asian men. And do you know what would happen? We would virtually have no change whatsoever in the overall violent crime rate in America because Asian men are much less violent than black men, much less violent than white men, and much less violent than Hispanic men. So if we wanted to address issues of violence and drive it down, the only real way we could do it, honestly, is by going after rates of black violence, because that is by far the highest rate of violent crime anywhere in America. Now, Don Lemon's not addressing that. Why? Because there is an insistence on the left to blame white men for everything. They see white men as the foundational cause of every ill that exists in America. But you know what's happening? Young men of all races increasingly see people like Don Lemon and are aware that they're lying to them and they're not being honest with them. The only way to go after violent crime is actually to go after violent crime in the places where violent crime is committed most often. And do you know who would benefit the most from violent crime being driven down? It's not people like me. It's not white men. It's not Asian men. It's not even Hispanic men. It's black men and women and black kids, because they are the victims overwhelmingly of the black violence that Don Lemon won't even address because he's a coward. But we will clip and share this with them, and maybe Don Lemon will actually talk about the real issues with violence in America, which overwhelmingly comes from the black community and victimizes the black community, which is what Trump is trying to take care of in Washington, D.C., in Memphis, now in Louisiana, potentially in Chicago, and certainly has been very successful in Washington, D.C. If black lives truly matter, shouldn't we make violence among black people far less common? Seems like that's a good idea. I'll wait for your response, Don. The floor is yours. Finally, I wanted to give credit here. Wall Street Journal has a story about the American Eagle CEO. And the American Eagle CEO is a man named Schottenstein. I shared this link from the Wall Street Journal article, but here's a quote. The Sweeney ads helped bring in nearly 1 million new customers between July and September. The Sweeney cinched waist denim jacket sold out in a day, and the Sydney jean, an ultra-wide leg with a butterfly on the back pocket, sold out in a week. In fact, the American Eagle company says that they brought in nearly 1 million new customers, and that polling commission by the company showed many customers viewed the ads favorably. American Eagle avoided a backlash, according to the Wall Street Journal, because it leaned in and stayed the course. Schottenstein is actually the CEO of American Eagle, 71 years old. He's an Orthodox Jew, And according to the Wall Street Journal, he was perplexed at the criticism that the campaign smacked of eugenics, the Nazi embrace theory that selective reproduction can advance the human race. Schottenstein said his mother-in-law grew up in Nazi Germany and watched as the synagogue across the street from her home was burned to the ground. I'm very conscious of that term, Schottenstein said. And he said that if his team had felt the campaign would be offensive in that way, we never would have done it. Wow. Interesting. So the American Eagle CEO is an Orthodox Jew whose mother-in-law actually grew up in Nazi Germany and saw when actual Nazis burned the synagogue across the street from her home. All they do is lie. They lie all the time to you. But fortunately, if you're just rational, if you're just reasonable, if you are just guided by common sense, like J.K. Rowling, like American Eagle, eventually you will win. That's what I've seen. That's what the record has reflected. Over time, America embraces sanity and common sense. That's how OutKick grew. That's how OutKick continues to grow. Go watch the Finnebaum interview, 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. We've got to record right now, the OutKick show. DBAP, unless you need to SBAP. I'm Clay Travis, and this has been OutKick, the show.